All right, and we're going to continue our discussion of communication. And we'll start here on this particular outline and video, understanding the message, writing for clarity. We want to consider the characteristics of the audience, including its literacy level, and there are ways of measuring that. You can copy test PR materials on a target audience. Also, maybe more practically, there are readability and comprehension formulas for all writing, but in particular public relations writing. One is called the Flesch test, which involves average sentence length and the number of one-syllable words per 100. And most news releases, newspaper articles are written at a 9th grade level. So let's have a look at a video here on readability exams or readability tests.
What is a readability score? In general, it's how easy it is to read your content. With tools like the Flesch-Kincaid readability test, you can determine at roughly what level a reader needs to be to understand your text. This includes sentence length, scannability, vocabulary level, how common each word is, syllable count for each word, active versus passive voice, and use of standard punctuation and mechanics. Now let's look at some of the tools you can use to keep your writing as accessible as possible. First up is Grammarly.
And he will continue to give you some other things that you can use to improve your writing, and it'd be worth your while to have a look at the rest of that video, but we'll stop it at that point. Using symbols, acronyms, and slogans, these are ways of improving the ability that you have to convey a message. Symbols, or in some cases we will call them logos, and some that you might be familiar with. I'm sure you're familiar with, for example, the Nike swoosh. Corporations use designs and color, of course, in their branding. Coca-Cola has a very familiar script logo, and also just the bottle itself is a type of logo or symbol for Coca-Cola. Of course, Coca-Cola is known for the color red. McDonald's is known for the golden arches. Here's a short video and just part of it on logos, creating logos.
This is Michael Beirut.
I'm Michael Beirut. I'm a graphic designer.
You might be familiar with his work. But interestingly, he thinks that logos are just kind of overrated.
I am actually often very ambivalent about them.
Let's back out a second. What is a logo? Basically the face of a company.
Some are beloved, the swastika is a logo and it's reviled,
They have to work at tiny sizes and huge.
There are 3 specific types. The first type is the word mark.
The word mark is the easiest one, and it's the one that we're all most familiar with. I mean, John Hancock's signature is kind of a word mark, and it can look crisp, clean, and modern like the new Google logo looks. It can look somehow that it has roots in a shared heritage the way the Coca-Cola logo looks,
The second is pictorial.
Pictorial logos often function as a kind of rebus. It's a picture, and you say what's in the picture, and it sort of is identifying the name of the company, sometimes directly like Target, sometimes more indirectly like Lacoste.
The third kind is kind of the holy grail, abstract iconography.
It's everyone's favorite kind of category because it just seems almost like magic, As a designer, people come to me and they'll say, oh, I want something like the Nike swoosh. They think that the Nike swoosh was the Nike swoosh the day it was drawn, but it was nothing the day it was drawn.
The company that birthed Nike commissioned a design student named Carolyn to draw some ideas, and the Nike founders didn't really like them.
They sort of said, oh, let's use that one.
It wasn't like an overnight success.
And then they started putting on designs of shoes. The shoes were good, and then the genius of Nike's marketing apparatus made us further associate that product not merely with performance athletic gear, but with the very idea of athletic achievement itself.
And that's how, over a long time, a little mark means something big.
I'll pause that there. Obviously, that's a really interesting video there about the creation of logos, but you may want to go back and watch the rest of that. Acronyms like NOW for the National Organization of Women, MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving. These are meaningful. and easy to remember. And the acronym itself usually means something that relates to the organization. Slogans are a phrase. This is several words that combine to condense a concept and to summarize a concept. So here's a short video, or at least part of it, on creating slogans.
ViewVast, how to create amazing slogans. A diamond is forever. Now we know you've heard that before, but do you know where this saying actually comes from? If not, that's fine, because most really don't. A diamond is forever is a saying that is part of our culture. But before that, it was actually a De Beers slogan to sell diamonds. And boy did those shiny rocks sell. Great slogans like "A diamond is forever" have been around throughout history. These slogans still work, but to compete with today's digital age, your slogan also must adapt. Now, if you're wondering how the hell is this done? Good. Fun size. Before you can even think about the content of what your slogan will be, the most important key is that it must be memorable. This means your slogan must be short. Anything longer than 4 words is too long. You have to see yourself as the person reading your own slogan. If they can't read it in under half a second, it's too long.
So we'll pause that at that point, but good advice there in creating a slogan. So symbols, acronyms, slogans all are useful in conveying a message. Avoid jargon, technical or bureaucratic language that nobody or very few people outside of that organization or that profession understand. Avoid cliches. These are things that have been used too often. They have been repeated again and again. And hype words also are similar. And these will harm your credibility and your believability. Just these are phrases that have lost their charm, lost their power. Factiva researched overused hype words, and those that they put near the top were next generation, robust, flexible, world class. I think we've all heard that one more than enough. Easy to use, and I don't know about you, but that kind of makes me a little bit leery of anything if they say it's easy to use, because I may not find it to be that way. And then cutting edge, we've probably heard that too often. Avoid euphemisms. These are inoffensive words, but they avoid reality. They have the advantage of being inoffensive, but they are not really conveying the truth. For example, for reducing the number of employees, a company might call that right-sizing or a skill mix adjustment rather than a layoff, for example. They breed suspicion, cynicism, distrust, and ultimately hostility. Euphemisms. Avoid discriminatory language. I think most of us are familiar with this concept these days, but you could say synthetic rather than man-made. We pretty typically say firefighters today instead of firemen. We pretty typically say police officers rather than policemen. In general, don't avoid or don't identify people by ethnic background or their sexual orientation or what have you, unless there is a particular reason, very specific reason for doing that that's relevant in that particular case. Believing the message, source credibility. Does the audience perceive the source as honest and objective or representing a special interest? And obviously we want source credibility. Lower credibility is given to an advertisement than a news article. For example, advertising is paid, and people understand that. The news article is presumably objective. And remember, we talked about third-party credibility several days ago. So this is the advantage of public relations if it is successful in getting information conveyed in a news context, that it will have more credibility as opposed to advertising. Outside experts and celebrities, of course, are helpful in achieving source credibility. Cognitive dissonance. This is an interesting concept, and it must be overcome by public relations communicators. People will not believe a message contrary to their predispositions. So we already have beliefs. And even if we present people with information that is persuasive, they already have beliefs, and it's hard to break through those existing beliefs. New information and persuasive spokespeople can be effective. But let's learn more about this notion of cognitive dissonance.
I was first introduced to the concept of cognitive dissonance in English class. Bias. Confirmation bias is the tendency to interpret new evidence as confirmation of one's existing beliefs or theories. In a nutshell, that means when you already believe something, your brain is looking for evidence to confirm that you're right. Instead of viewing information that's being presented to us and coming to conclusions about that information, we're looking to be confirmed that what we already think is right. Most of us have beliefs deep embedded in us that will use new information to either confirm or, if the new information is at odds with what we believe, outright reject them. I don't want this video to be misconstrued. I don't want you to hear this and hear me saying, I don't think you should interact with anyone or anything that's ever done anything problematic ever. That's not what I'm saying. There's pretty much no way to exist in this current capitalist climate consuming media and food that has been made in 100% ethically ways. It's just impossible. All I'm trying to say is that after watching this video, try to be more aware of how cognitive dissonance plays out in your life, in your actions, your thoughts, and politics.
So we'll stop that there. This is a video lasting more than 5 minutes, and we picked it up near the end, but you might like to go back and watch that entire video. I think it's worthwhile. Remembering the message, repetition of the message is essential, because not all members of the target audience see or hear the message at the same time. I may see it one time and not another time, and the same is true for you. Repetition prevents failure to remember, hard to forget something when it's constantly being repeated, and it increases the chance of penetrating audience indifference or resistance, and this gets to that thing we were just talking about of cognitive dissonance and breaking through that resistance that we encounter. So here's a video on that, and again, I'm going to pick this up somewhere in the middle.
Repetition. When you say something over and over, it becomes more believable. And I may have mentioned, maybe not, maybe only at boot camp, but basically when you repeat something over, if you repeat something over and over and over and over and over, then it becomes as true in the minds of another person as if they had heard it from as many people. So in other words, if you said, I sell great programs, or I sell great products, or I sell great lawn service. Okay, so if you say I sell great lawn service 100 times and the person watches you on TV in a commercial 100 times, or they see you on a YouTube commercial, one of those old 5-second spots 100 times, you don't need 100 other people to say, yeah, this is a really great lawn service, 100 different people, because all you have to really do is have you do it. And the results are almost identical. The repetition is what matters, not necessarily the people involved. And that.
So we'll stop that at that point. But the idea of repetition is essential, and this is why, of course, commercials are repeated again and again. And there are powerful reasons that that is effective. Key points may be mentioned at the beginning and the end of a message. Telephone numbers and web addresses are repeated, of course, a number of times. We can convey information in a variety of ways. Also, this is part of repetition, conveying the information through multiple communication channels. So you see it in different places at different times. Acting on the message, the 5-stage adoption process. This is the process that people go through in finally accepting the message, and this is not an easy thing. So the adoption process is first awareness by means of media or otherwise, then interest, and if you are interested, then you seek more information. We're talking about the receiver of the message now, our target. Evaluation, feedback from friends and family, is important. So before we commit, we'll go and ask about it and look into it more. We're evaluating the claims. Trial, some kind of experimental basis. We'll try it out before completely going into adoption of the product or whatever it might be, and then finally adoption. So there is also a video that goes with this, and you may want to watch that. The word of mouth campaigns we've talked about briefly. The influence of peers is very persuasive, and you can probably think of times when you have decided something because of what a friend or family member said. PR organizations actually organize word-of-mouth campaigns. Procter & Gamble did this. This was quite some time back, getting 225,000 teenagers to say nice things, and presumably they were sincere, but to repeat that they had tried and liked herbal essence. So sometimes word of mouth is not totally by accident. Here's a few words on that.
In this video, we'll go through the ways to successfully increase your word-of-mouth marketing by using social media. Now, social media is one of the most valuable tools that brands can use, and its continued growth in popularity means there's never been an easier way for consumers and brands to get their thoughts out there. Social media today have released stats showing that 92% of us rely on the recommendations of our friends over any other form of advertising. They also revealed that 70% of online consumers trust the opinions of other consumers online rather than that of a business. So it's important to target the right people in the right place with the right message.
And we'll stop that at that point and bring this to a close on word-of-mouth campaigns. There's another very good TED Talk video there on word-of-mouth campaigns and some of the things that can go wrong there. So I hope you'll look at that as well. And we'll continue next time, and we'll be talking about evaluation, which is the fourth step in the public relations, the PR process. So we'll talk to you again soon.